Hello and welcome to worship here on the week of November 24th. We are wrapping up our Fishing with Jesus worship series this week, and we have one final reading from the book of Luke about going fishing with Jesus. So let us start with our reading today. As we listen to Luke speaking, the question we have is, how does Jesus get stuff done? Do we wish and hope that Jesus will just take care of fixing the world all on his own? Or is Jesus inviting us to be partners in the work that he has to do in the world today? So we read from the 5th chapter of Luke. Jesus saw two boats sitting by the lake. The fishermen had gone ashore and were washing their nets. Jesus boarded one of the boats, the one that belonged to Simon, and then asked to row out a little distance from the shore. Jesus sat down and taught the crowds from the boat. When he finished speaking to the crowds, he said to Simon, "Row out further into the deep water and drop your nets for a catch." Simon replied, "Master, we've worked hard all night and caught nothing. But because you say so, I'll drop the nets." So they dropped the nets, and their catch was so huge their nets were splitting. They signaled for their partners in the other boat to come and help them. They filled both boats so full that they were about to sink. When Simon Peter saw the catch, he fell at Jesus' knees and said, "Leave me, Lord, for I'm a sinner." Peter and those with him were overcome with amazement because of the number of fish they caught. James and John, Zebedee's sons, were Simon's partners, and they were amazed as well. Jesus said to Simon, "Don't be afraid. From now on, you will be fishing for people." Here ends our reading, the Word of God, the Word of life. As we think about this story this week, we've talked in the past this month about God's abundance and how God wants us to be part of God's work, and that God really expects us to take the first step, to do something first. So in this case, Simon had to put the net in the water first, not knowing what was going to happen, and then Jesus filled the nets so they were so full that the boats almost sank. This is amazing. Now, I don't know about you, but I could use a little abundance like this in my life right now. The thing is, do I have enough trust to step out and do the first thing, to talk to someone, to invite someone, to listen to someone's life story, to throw the net out in some new place, in some new way? This fall, I went to a training conference that talked about churches that were thriving and flourishing and growing and reaching more people, including more people in wonderful community transformative work. And what was it that set those churches aside from the churches that are declining and kind of living a meh life? And one of the things they said is that because of the internet these days, you can go anywhere and you can download the finest sermons from the finest preachers anywhere in the world. In fact, on our very own YouTube channel, we sometimes get people from all over the world checking out some of our videos. You can get fine preaching anywhere, but you can't get good leaders in your local community except when you come together. So as we think about this story with Jesus today, I want to think about what is it that Jesus is asking of us, and what is it that we have to give, because the reality is I don't think Jesus is asking for something that's more than we can give. I don't think Jesus is asking us to do huge, big, gigantic, enormous things. Now, there is a time and a place when Jesus wants us to swing for the fences, no doubt. But I think Jesus is inviting us to be fishing for people, meaning we are sharing the love and grace of Jesus Christ with other people every single day in our everyday, ordinary, regularly scheduled lives. What does this look like in a real life? So first of all, if we're going to talk about going fishing from a leadership standpoint, what are we talking about here? We're talking about involving more people in doing God's work in the world today. And when I talk about God's work, I'm not talking about curing cancer. I'm talking about making the world a nicer place with more mercy, with more justice, with more kindness, with more compassion. This is work that we can fit into our regular, ordinary days, no matter what our age is, what our job is, what anything is in our life. Every single one of us can be doing this work. So the first thing is we need to involve more people. Now, I want to lift up a person in our congregation, Ruth Ann, because I think she's really, really good at this. She leads our seasoned seniors lunch program through the fall and winter months, and we get dozens of people who come in for an amazing lunch and just all sorts of wonderful fun activities. And it happens because Ruth Ann directly goes and asks people to come and participate, to come get a good meal, but she also directly asks people to volunteer, to come and work. Just about every month, I see someone new working in the kitchen with Ruth Ann, and I think she does a fantastic job. Now, for most of us, we're like, well, if I put something on social media, maybe people will show up. If I put it in a bulletin or the newsletter, maybe people will show up. If we put up a new sign outside the church, maybe people will show up. I don't know about you, but the reality is I don't often show up just because I've seen a sign or a poster or a flyer someplace. I usually show up because someone I know, I trust, I like, has said, hey, you should go check this out. I did it, I really liked it, you're gonna enjoy it. That's usually when I show up, and that's what Ruth Ann does. She directly tells people that, hey, this is worthwhile, this is worth your time, why don't you come join us? So the first thing I think that really matters is that we directly ask people, hey, come do this with me. It's really worth it. Now, another person who's been doing a great job directly asking people is Kaywa with the Gratitude Project. She has called up people and said, will you come and help us when we are packing the goodie bags that we give out to our neighbors that do important jobs in our community? And so she's gotten a number of people that now come in every month to help out with this project. And again, she directly asks people. This isn't Field of Dreams where if you build it, they will come. We can't just wish people to show up with no investment of our own time. So I really lift up these two people that are doing great things as far as directly asking people. Now, another thing with leadership is that you have to plan things that are actually meaningful to people and that are going to be transformative for the people who are involved and the people who are being served. So right now, our church is working to put together a big, huge mission project next summer. Now, this church has a long history of having some really great mission trips, and our people have gone all over the place. But since COVID, we haven't really done that. So we are planning something really big next summer. We're planning a trip to Detroit. It's an 8 or 9 hour drive. And we're going to a place called Motown Missions, which is a mission project run by several United Methodist churches in central Detroit. So urban neighborhoods. And this is an economic justice trip. We are going to places that have been economically devastated by changing in the factories and manufacturing in the economic landscape of their neighborhoods. We're going to be helping rebuild houses. We're going to be helping with gardening and lot cleanups. We're going to be helping with kid ministries, with food ministries. There's a whole bunch of things we're going to be doing. But this is something that we make a difference when a whole bunch of us go. And in this day and age, to get a bus to get us all over there, we need at least 40 people going. And so we are going to be working to individually invite people we know to join us on the bus for this week-long mission trip to go and see how God is at work in a community that has been devastated by changes that they didn't ask for. But as we come together as neighbors, we can make a difference. We can improve these neighborhoods so that these neighborhoods can be thriving and flourishing places once again. Now, the other thing about going fishing with Jesus is that I think a lot of us, aside from the leadership of how do we organize it, how do we get stuff done, how do we invite people to come, how do we plan for stuff, there is another problem to going fishing with Jesus. And that's that we are really good at coming up with excuses. Jesus, I'm busy. I've got work. I'm not feeling well. My grandkids are coming. There's just a whole lot going on. I don't have time. I can't fit this into my life. This is real. Many of us have really busy lives. Many of us have a lot of things that we're juggling. A lot of us have a lot of people in our lives that we're trying to take care of and support. A lot of us have obligations in our workplaces, in our communities, where our jobs are important for other people around us. And many of us are volunteering a lot and doing a lot in the community. So how do we say yes to something and no to something else? How do we manage the gift of time that we've been given? In my own life, things have changed in different phases of my life. I've had more or less time for different types of things as I went along through life. But I want to share right now some of the different ways that I made sure to find time for God and listening to God's desire for me to go fishing for people who needed to hear God's hope in their lives. So for a while, when I was in my 20s, before I got married, I was bouncing around churches. I was having a hard time finding a place that I really fit in. But my first year out of college, I took a year and I worked with the Lutheran Volunteer Corps, and I worked in inner city Baltimore. I was doing anti-hunger work. I was getting to know people in my community. And I spent a year learning a lot about how other people live and experience life in a way that was very different from what I had experienced in my life so far. I don't know if what I offered for other people was that transformative or meaningful, but what other people offered to me was transformative. My life is different because I spent a year living in a different community among a group of people that did things very differently than what I was used to. And I have a better understanding of the world, and I have a better time understanding neighbors who have different struggles than what I know about. And together we have been able to do something differently. So that's something I did in my 20s. In my 30s, I had kids running around. I had a couple kids. I'd had a miscarriage, so I'd lost a baby. We adopted a special needs child out of foster care. And so the 30s were all about the kids in my life. And yeah, there was scouts, and there was violin lessons, and there was cross country, and there was all sorts of things happening all the time. But there were a couple things that I did at this point in life to stay grounded in my faith, to have a God connection that brought some peace to my life. So one thing was I found a group of moms, and we got together most Wednesdays after school. We'd pick up the kids. We went to one of the houses. The kids would run crazy, and we moms would sit and talk. We'd do a little Bible study. We supported each other. Now, I fit this into my life around my kids' schedule. I did it with other parents. Sometimes I'd sit at swim meets and I'd have conversations with the other parents, and it often had a spiritual piece to it. Was I sitting there trying to evangelize people and say, come do Jesus? No. I was saying, these are the things I'm struggling with in my life, and they gave me support and gave me ideas, and I gave them ideas and support, and sometimes God was part of that conversation. It was a little bit different every time, but I found ways to be supported and to support others. At one point in my life, I was part of a group called TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. And we met literally, we were thanking God it was Friday. On Friday nights, we got off work at 4:30, and we would all meet at a bar, and we'd have a drink before we went home to have dinner and whatever else we were doing on Friday nights. We'd have a little Bible study sitting there in the bar. We'd talk about the ways we'd seen God at work that week, and we'd also talk about the moments where we didn't see God and we really wished we had. There have been times in my life when I've been part of a regular Bible study on Sunday morning. For a while, my kids didn't have a youth Sunday school, so they actually came to my adult Sunday school, which was mostly senior citizens, but my high school kids actually loved having these conversations with senior citizens over some goofy videos that we'd gotten from a confirmation series. And the senior citizens loved kind of going through confirmation informally and having those conversations again about what is faith and who is God and what is the church and what are we all doing here together. Sometimes I've had Wednesday night gatherings after work or in the evening. Sometimes they've been on Zoom with people in other parts of the country. Sometimes they've been locally. But in each phase of my life, I have found a way to find time to be with a group of people, to have spiritual conversations. Did we solve all the problems of the world? No. Have any of these groups lasted my entire life? No. Sometimes it was 6 weeks. Sometimes it was 2 weeks. Sometimes it was a few years in a season of my life. Right now here at church, we'd like to give our congregation a new opportunity to find some time in their life over a 6-week period where we do some intentional prayers, where we're listening for God. Where is God wanting us to go fishing for people? Who are the people in our community who need a little God love in their lives right now? And how can we bring that to them? A lot of us don't even know where to start with this. And it's a little hard to actually get in a boat with Jesus and have Jesus say, throw your net there. These days, we get in a boat by praying, by spending time in prayer with Jesus. So I invite you to pick up one of our 6-week prayer journal, 40-day prayer journal packets. They're going to be in the lobby. When you pick it up, we want you to be in a group of people. It's just for 6 weeks. Find 3 to 6 people and figure out a time each week that you're going to check in with each other. You can do this by phone. You can do this by FaceTime. You can meet at a coffee shop. You can meet for breakfast or supper. You can meet for beers. You can meet in the backyard. You can go for a walk. I don't care. It's going to be about 3 to 10 minutes each day to do your prayers, and then your group can gather for 20 or 30 minutes, or longer if you want, to just check in with each other. Where was God speaking to you this week? What came to you as you did these small prayers each day? But this is one of the ways that we're encouraging you to find a new way during this winter season of spending a little bit of time with God and learning to listen in a new way to what Jesus might be asking you to do. As we think about Jesus in this boat with Simon, Jesus asked Simon for something that he already had. He had a boat. Jesus didn't ask Simon to go out and become a different person and get a bunch of stuff that he didn't have already. He had a boat, and Jesus says, can I use your boat? I think what we often forget when we think about, I can't do this, Jesus, is that Jesus is asking us to do stuff with the resources we already have. What is it that you have? Do you have a camper trailer? Do you have an extra room? Do you have some time on a Saturday? What is it that you have that Jesus can use in your life? Some of us have hunting buddies, and maybe as we're going hunting this season, maybe we can share a word of encouragement, or maybe we can share something that we've learned about God this year with our hunting buddies that maybe will plant a seed for them to have a new encounter with God in the new year. Maybe you are a parent or a grandparent and you're sitting at a bunch of sporting events or dancing events. Maybe there's a conversation you can have with someone that you're getting to know sitting in the stands at these events. Maybe you're in a bowling league. Maybe you have some neighbors. Maybe you have some family that you can talk to. There are people already in your life that Jesus is hoping that you're going to share a little bit of God's grace with them. So in our prayer time, we can be asking, God, who is it that is in my life that you want me to connect with in a new way? As we think about going fishing with Jesus, it's about the realness of our daily life. It's about being your authentic self. This is not become a whole new person. Now, there are moments when Jesus will change us. There's moments when an encounter with someone else will transform us. But Jesus is starting with where we are right now. And as a congregation, we are working to create some new events that we can go fishing for people, where we will meet new people, we will serve with people, maybe we get to know people we already know in a new way. So in the coming months, we have some things that I'd really like you to pray about, to be involved in, where you can meet some new people. These are going to be fishing events. And they're not bait and switch events where we're going to try and lure people in one way and then give them something else. We're going to be very straightforward and upfront with what we're doing. We've got the Christmas candlelight services coming up. There's a huge number of people who miss the comfort and peace of a Christmas Eve worship service. We have some beautiful Christmas Eve candlelight services. Invite someone there. We have the Detroit trip coming up next June. Get registered, reserve your spot, and invite someone to go with you. We are going to have a meal packing event in January where we're going to bring 30 people in, and we're going to have 3 different assembly lines going, and we are hoping to pack 12,000 meals to share with people who are in emergency situations where they need food immediately. And we've got a small group of people that's growing into a bigger group of people that is planning a special Easter event, an Easter carnival for April. It is going to be so much fun. It's going to be amazing. There's going to be incredible activities. There's going to be all kinds of promotion in our community, and we hope that we can meet hundreds of people through this event. If you want to have fun with the Easter rabbit and with sugar cookies and Easter egg hunts, come and let us know so that you can be part of the team. Help us invite a whole lot of people to get together. I mean, April, it's not nice yet outside. It's usually still gray and mopey outside. It's a wonderful time for us to give the gift of an amazing community event to our neighbors. These are 4 great things that are coming up. You can use these as your fishing opportunities to invite someone to be part of something special, to be part of God's work in our world today. What boat are you in right now? And where is Jesus asking you to throw your net? What is going on in your life that Jesus can use so that you can connect with someone who needs a little love and grace and encouragement in their life right now? That's all Jesus is asking for. As a congregation, I encourage you to fill out one of the commitment cards and be part of our ministry in 2025. Let us know how you are going to give of yourself, of your time, of your talents, of your financial resources to help us do something special in this place in 2025 as we connect with the people that Jesus wants us to connect with. It's not as hard as we'd like to think it is, and Jesus has already given us the resources to do this well. We just have to throw the net out. Come with us and let's have fun together. Amen.